everything mental health with your hosts, Chris Weeks and Maureen Edwards.
Hi again, Chris.
Hi, Maureen.
Here we are going through our addiction cycle, and the final stage of the addiction cycle, which is after the use. There is usually always an intense feeling of guilt and or shame involved.
Yes. So what's that about? Where's that coming from?
I think for a lot of people, it's after their neurotransmitters have been topped up with the drug or the alcohol or the behavior, and they're feeling more settled and not in this anxious state of trying to figure out how to cope. They come to a place where it's like, oh man, why did that happen? Why can't I just not be there and continue to do this all the time? Why isn't there a different way? I used all this money. I lied to my beloved ones. I betrayed myself and the fact that I said I was going to stop on Monday, and now it's Monday afternoon and here I'm using again. And in that, there can be this feeling of grief, feeling of guilt, feeling of intense shame. Why am I different? What's wrong with me? How am I going to fix this? I got to do better next time. And coupled with maybe no money in the bank, the lies that you might have had to tell to get your alcohol or drug of choice, and now you have to own up to that because maybe it's going to be found out. And just the feeling like not good at all within yourself. Like you let yourself down, you've let your family down, you've let your loved ones down, and you're in a worse position than you were to start with.
Yes.
Even though at this point you feel like you can cope.
Right. Brené Brown talks about guilt and shame and the distinction between the two, where guilt, let's say, for example, you say, I made a mistake, and that's guilt. The shame is, I am a mistake. So the guilt is kind of focused on the behavior and the shame is focused on the self. And so there's where the difficulty arises with that kind of self-talk.
Yes.
The guilt can be crippling in terms of what I did. The shame can drive you back to the use because of what I am. And there's the return to that kind of vicious cycle. I'm not worth it. I'm a failure. People think this of me. And so, interesting, the focus on self continue to perpetuate this cycle, because a person can I've heard stories of people apologizing for what they've done over and over again, and then of course doing it again. People don't necessarily apologize as much for what they think that they are. Sort of, I'm no good, so because of my behavior, don't bother with me. There's so when this can be, this comes from, we mentioned about trauma before. I mean, this can come from way back where a person feels a certain way about themselves to start with, and subsequently, then almost in an interesting way, the behavior is kind of justified.
And like you said, it can be like wearing the guilt and shame coat, just like this has become part of me.
Yeah.
And I think it has a lot to do. I've had so many people say, this is the only way I know how to cope. And I hate that. I hate that I don't know what else to do other than this. This is like the only thing that makes whatever it is, that emotional or mental trigger, go away. And so that's where all of these tools that we're talking about can be very, very helpful in helping a person use another tool instead of always going to the go-to.
Absolutely. I think that the preoccupation with self, that sort of self absorption, so to speak, there needs to be a kind of an interruption of that narrative in some fashion, because that narrative also serves a purpose. It can override every other system in order to drive the individual back to the use again.
Exactly. It perpetuates the cycle to be ongoing.
Yeah.
And I think it's important also in like letting the person know that this cycle of addiction, everyone that has addiction is going through the same cycle, but in their own individual way. And so that just knowing that somebody else is going through this too, that you're not alone, that can be helpful in itself.
True.